Hi, this is Dr. Swapna and I welcome you to your Learn Lab. If you are an IGNOU student looking for help in your studies, then you have reached the right place. Here we have lecture videos on different core and elective subjects of important IGNOU courses. We aim to help you ace your exams. So hit subscribe to our channel, and as you watch, make sure to like and share too. Come and join me on this beautiful learning journey. In this video, we are studying biopsychology, which is BPCC 102. It's an important core subject for BA Honours Psychology students, and here we continue with Block 2, which is all about our nervous system, and we continue our study of the central nervous system. Alright, so yeah, we have completed our study about the forebrain, right? We have also studied the midbrain. What is left? The hindbrain. So in case you haven't watched the previous videos on forebrain and midbrain, I'll add the link to the playlist in the description. I would suggest you go watch it and then come back. It would be easy for you to understand a lot of things in this video because I might not go back and explain every single term again. Alright. So we continue with the hindbrain. Let's see. So about hindbrain. What are we going to study? We'll see what is the hindbrain. Then we'll see what are the different parts of the hindbrain. We'll also see what are the different functions of each of those parts. Alright, so let's see what is the hindbrain. It's also called rhombencephalon, right? Rhomb and encephalon. Encephalon means brain, right? It is the posterior or the lower back part of the brain at the base of the skull. So your skull ends here and lower part of the at the base of the skull, back of your brain, also the lower part of the brain, the lower back part of your brain, this area, this is the hindbrain, and it also extends up to the spinal cord. Alright, and what does it do? It regulates vital autonomic functions. What are autonomic functions? Your involuntary automatic functions like your heartbeat, breathing, digestion, right? All these are something that you cannot control, and these are the vital functions which are controlled by the hindbrain. It also helps in coordinating movement and balance. All right. Let's see what are the different parts of the hindbrain. Hindbrain is mainly divided into two parts. Alright, the first one is the metencephalon and the second one is the myelencephalon. Metencephalon is further divided into two parts. First is the cerebellum and the second is the pons. Myelencephalon is also called medulla oblongata. I'm sure all of you have heard about medulla oblongata, right? So that's another name for myelencephalon. We already know how these words are derived at, right? In one of our previous videos, we have talked about how all these names are derived at. Encephalon means brain, and all these prefixes to encephalon gives you the names of different parts of the brain. Let's start with metencephalon. Let's see. Metencephalon is the rostral or the anterior part of the developing hindbrain. I am not going to explain what is anterior and rostral. Maybe you can go back and watch the video, the first video on brain, right? Link is there in the description. So metencephalon is the anterior part of the developing brain or the top part of the developing brain. It develops into pons and cerebellum. So as when the brain develops in the fetus, right? Metencephalon is the top part and it develops into pons and cerebellum. It also contains parts of the fourth ventricle and certain cranial nerves. We know what is ventricle, right? We have already studied. We said there are four ventricles. We have seen where all those four ventricles are. So here, metencephalon also contains some parts of the fourth ventricle. It also contains cranial nerves. What are cranial nerves? These are nerves that arise from the brain. We'll deal with cranial nerves in detail in another video. Alright, so all you need to remember here is that metencephalon also contains parts of the fourth ventricle and certain cranial nerves. Let's see what are the different parts of the metencephalon. We talked about these two parts. First is cerebellum, second is pons, right? Let's look at each of these parts in detail. First, cerebellum is the second largest part of the brain. Which is the first largest part of the brain? The cerebral cortex, also called the cerebrum, right? After cerebrum, cerebellum is the second largest part of the brain. It's also called the little brain. You can see here in the image, this is the cerebellum or the little brain. It's located at the back of the head, below the cerebrum and above the spinal cord. So back of the head, below the cerebrum, this is the cerebrum or the cortex, and this is the spinal cord. So it is below the cerebrum and above the spinal cord, or between the cerebrum and the spinal cord. Alright. Cerebellum is composed of white matter. We have already talked what is white matter and what is grey matter, right? What is white matter? It's the parts of the brain which are rich in myelinated axons, giving it a white appearance. And the grey matter is rich in the cell body and axon endings, right? You can see here there is visual gray area and there is white area. Where is the gray area found? In the cerebral cortex. We have also studied that in spinal cord this arrangement is reversed. Gray in the middle and white on the outside. Right? So our cerebellum is also composed of white matter. Besides that, it contains grooves called sulci and raised bumps called gyri. See, we have this wrinkly appearance on the surface of the brain, right? So our hindbrain, so we saw that this is the structure of cortex or the forebrain part, right? But here in the hindbrain, cerebellum also looks very similar. It also has got these grooves which is called sulci, right? And these raised bumps called gyri. Alright. It also contains long and short nerve tracts that transmit information to and from the cerebellum. Okay. What are the functions of cerebellum now? Cerebellum controls movement of skeletal muscles. We have seen different parts of the brain which are involved in movement of skeletal muscles, right? So why is this so? So that if any part of your brain is damaged, there would be another part of the brain to take up that function. Alright. So cerebellum also functions in controlling the movement of skeletal muscles. It enables smooth, efficient and coordinated movement. It helps in maintaining body posture and equilibrium. Alright. It's also responsible for learned reflexes. What are learned reflexes? For example, you are given a pencil, you see a pencil. If you have to write, you know what to do. You just pick the pencil and you write it, right? You don't have to think about what to do with the pencil. You have already learned what to do with the pencil, right? That is learned reflex. Also, it is responsible for your different habits and all the skills you have. Okay, so these are also functions of your cerebellum. The cerebellum can get damaged due to injury. If something hits the cerebellum or the back of the head, it can cause an injury. Or the cerebellum can get damaged due to a disease. Alright, if not disease, it can be a tumor also. What happens when the cerebellum gets damaged due to any of these reasons? First of all, there would be ataxia or no coordination in movements. Your body will not be able to coordinate different limbs on both your hands or legs, and it won't be able to move as you want to because there is no coordination between the different parts of your body. This is called ataxia. Alright. There would be frequent tremors, unstable gait and walking. You will not be able to walk straight or properly. You won't be able to stand still. Okay. There would be disturbed equilibrium. Also, there would be inability to speak clearly and fluently. There would be visual problems like double vision or other visual disturbances. There would be difficulties in memory. The patient would not be able to think clearly or express the thoughts coherently. Even if the person knows the language, knows all the words, they will not be able to express it. Okay, all this happens when the cerebellum gets damaged. Alright, so that was all about cerebellum. We said that metencephalon has two parts, cerebellum. We have completed. Let's now move on to pons. Pons is the bulged, rounded structure that is a part of the brainstem. You can see here. This is the brainstem. This is the round, bulging part. This is pons. Alright. It's located between the midbrain and medulla oblongata. Now this smaller bulge is the medulla oblongata. And this is the midbrain. So where is pons located? Between the midbrain and medulla oblongata. It acts as a bridge connecting the cerebellum and other brain regions. Alright, so this is acting as a bridge connecting cerebellum and other regions of the brain. Alright, pons is the key point where cranial nerves merge. What are cranial nerves? These are nerves that arise from the brain, and we'll learn more about cranial nerves in a different video. Alright, here all you need to remember is that pons is like a junction, okay, and it's the key point where all these cranial nerves merge. Pons is made of white matter. Which part is the white matter? White matter is that part of the brain which is rich in myelinated axons. Myelin or the fatty insulation layer gives it a white appearance. Gray matter present in the cerebral cortex consisted of cell bodies and nerve endings. Alright, so pons is also made of white matter and reticulate formation. We said this is just a network of neurons which relay information to different parts of the brain. Alright, now what are the functions of pons? Pons helps in controlling reflexes. Okay, it regulates respiration, your breathing. All these, I told you that the hindbrain is responsible for your autonomous involuntary functions, right? So breathing is one such example, and pons regulates respiration. It influences the sleep-wake cycle, when you should sleep and when you should wake up. This is also controlled by the pons. It also influences dream while you are sleeping. So you need to keep the pons happy for a healthy sleep-wake cycle and nicer dreams. Alright. Okay, so what are we studying? We are studying the parts of the hindbrain. We said that hindbrain is divided into mainly two parts. Which are they? The metencephalon and the myelencephalon. We just finished studying about metencephalon. Which are the two parts of metencephalon? Cerebellum and pons. Now we have myelencephalon, right? We said it's also called medulla oblongata. Let's study about myelencephalon in detail now. Myelencephalon is also called medulla oblongata. I am sure you have heard about this term somewhere or the other, at least in movies, right? It's the most posterior or the lowest part of the brainstem. You can see here medulla. This is the lowest part of the brainstem. Alright. It's located at the top of the spinal cord. So from here the spinal cord starts. Okay, so this connects what? The rest of the brain to the spinal cord. Top of the spinal cord and lowest part of the brain stem. Its cone shaped structure, you can see here, almost resembles a cone, and it is about an inch in size. Alright. What does it contain? Again, like every other part of the hindbrain, myelencephalon also contains what? White matter, reticulate formation, and projection tracts. Projection tracts are nothing but bundles of nerve fibers which are relaying information from one part to the other. Alright. Damage to medulla can be fatal due to its control over life-sustaining processes. I said again, hindbrain is involved in what? Regulating all your autonomic functions like heartbeat and breathing, which you cannot do voluntarily. There is no voluntary control. So if anything happens to the medulla, it's potentially fatal to the human being. What are the functions? Let's look at the different functions of the medulla. First is autonomic functions. Medulla regulates vital autonomic functions like heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, and digestion. Alright? Sensory and motor function. It carries ascending sensory tracts and descending motor tracts. We have talked about it already in our previous video, right? What is ascending sensory tracts? These are bundles of nerves that carry information towards the brain, right? It tells whatever is happening outside the body. It takes all those signals and then transmits it to the brain, towards the brain. And then we have descending motor tracts, which are the neurons which are bringing the information from the brain to the rest of the body. Okay, that is descending motor tract. And then it relays information between the brain and the spinal cord. Look at the position between the brain and the spinal cord, right? So it relays information between the brain and the spinal cord. It controls non-vital reflexes also, such as vomiting, coughing, and sneezing. Okay, these are reflexes which are non-vital, and Pons controls these also. Medulla also functions as crossing center for nerves. Alright, nerves coming from left and right sides of the body cross each other. This helps in taking sensory information from the left side of the brain to the right and vice versa. In one of the videos that I'll be posting later on about brain lateralization, which is your block 3, we'll study that the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body and right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. So there is a crisscross there, okay, lateralization. This happens when we have neurons which will be connecting the right brain to the left body and left brain to the right body, right? And these neurons need to crisscross or cross each other at some point. And medulla oblongata is that part or that junction where both these categories of neurons cross each other, taking information from left side of the brain to the right side of the body and from right side of the brain to left side of the body. Alright, so that was all about medulla oblongata. So with that, we finish all the different parts of the brain. Alright, thank you all for learning with me. If you found the video helpful, make sure you let me know by hitting the like button. Make sure you share the video with your friends too. Subscribe to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the new videos. You can reach me by simply dropping a comment. See you in the next one. Till then, happy learning.